Why have I quit my job? Why have I, bought a van? And why am I going to drive around the country? Well, I'm passionate about the idea that you need to be heard. And I want to stitch these stories together across the states. We're going to find the commonalities. And it's going to be really an amazing experience. And I look forward to you joining me on the job. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Mental Health Today. I'm your host, Ken Stearns. Another great episode lined up, and another person I've met just kind of through posting and through finding kind of my path in this mental health journey, my own kind of story, and kind of getting through all this and meeting people along the way. It's been very interesting, and getting to meet people, just having a conversation with Debbie Hampton, our next guest, and find a little bit about the commonality. I think it was kind of interesting there. We were talking about just, what is it like what is happiness with money? What is happiness without money? How do you, can you be happy without money? Is that possible? And does money really solve our happiness problem? That search for happiness and peace that we're looking for. And I think we both kind of giggled because we found out we probably both had money at one point and also decided that actually it's just as nice and sometimes maybe even more peaceful, just kind of living and then being present in the moment. I think it does kind of force you to be more present. So Debbie, welcome to the show. Thanks for being a guest and taking time out of your day.
Thank you, Ken. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. We were chatting before, right? You're doing technical writing, and you're also a writer and a strategist, as SEO, doing some SEO work. So but you've also got this amazing past. So, I normally like to kind of focus on people's present, but I think it's kind of all together for you. I don't think I can separate who you are now from who you are.
Well, the past is what made me who I am today. And I think a lot of people are stuck where I was. And I can be an example of, things can change and you can be an instrument for change in your own life. I touched a cat. Could you hear it?
Yeah. It's like a squeeze toy.
Yeah, it puts itself on my desk right here in front of me every day.
Yeah. It is kind of fun to have this helping other people through your journey and sharing your journey. And I think that's kind of what the show is about. Listen, share, support is our tagline. And I think it goes for, my role, listen and share and then support. And then also I think the audience's role, listen and share, support. And also I think the guests kind of have that responsibility too, is to share and, different version, right? A different version of it. But you're now at that point where you can share your journey and hopefully somebody can find peace in that.
Well, what I want people to know is I used to be really good at playing the victim.
Oh, goodness.
And as many people I think are, because that's kind of what we learned growing up, and it's kind of what society endorses. But I learned how to take control of my own brain and my own mind. And when you do that, when you take control of your mind, you take control of your life. And if you can learn how to calm and direct your mind, you can calm and direct your life. I used to feel like a leaf being blown about in the wind from one crisis and drama to the next. And a lot of that was because I let myself do that. I didn't take the power we all have.
Yes.
To take control of my mind and my behavior. And you can't control the thoughts that pop into your head. Your subconscious brain does generate those. And it's mostly made up of your subconscious matter memories, which is made up of pains, wounds, fears, hurts, all the bad stuff.
Benson.
And your brain's number one job is always to protect you. It does not care about your happiness or anything else, your peace. I mean, our brains are naturally anxious and cautious and fearful. And that's
Yes.
just your brain doing its job,
Oh, that's
keeping
good.
you alive.
Yeah.
And if we let our brain rule the show and let our instincts be the priority and direct our behavior and our thoughts, we're going to live a reactive, fearful life, which I did for the first half of my life. And I had a lot of challenges happen. My brother died of AIDS after I took care of him for 2 years. I got divorced from my childhood sweetheart after an 18-year marriage, which had become emotionally abusive. And I mean, it was a divorce court ugly. It was not a pretty parting. And I had no coping skills. And I was, like we're talking about, I was living the fearful, reactive life because it's what I had seen growing up. It's what I had learned. And I hadn't learned coping skills or mental health skills. So when life got really challenging, again, as it always does, but it was a lot of things all at once, I tried to end my life by overdosing on a bunch of pills. And I almost succeeded.
Dang.
I put myself in a coma for
Oh,
a couple weeks. And when I came out of the coma, I could not speak. All I could do is make sounds. I basically had no memory. I thought I was still married. I thought my brother was still alive. I mean, basically,
wow.
I went back to all of the before all of the pain.
Yeah, you reset back to the pain.
Right.
Pain free.
So so the next couple years were very challenging for me. My ex-husband sued me for custody of our sons and took them away and immediately moved out of state. And here I was with a severe brain injury. I couldn't talk. I couldn't do anything I could before. But
Wow.
I thought life was bad before. Okay, so it was my challenge to rebuild my brain and my life. And I had a near drowning experience. And I used to be a competitive swimmer and I was a lifeguard all through high school and college. So I'm a good swimmer. But after the brain injury, I wasn't such a good swimmer. And I had a almost drowning experience in the ocean.
Oh, good. That's scary.
Yeah, it was scary. I mean, I was swallowing water and I was bobbing up and down, yelling, help. And I fought really hard to save myself and to save my life. And it didn't occur to me after that. This was like 6 months after I'd overdosed and tried to end my life.
And
And
now
it
you're
occurred to me after that, why did you try to live? Why didn't you just slide under the water and finish what you had started 6 months ago? Because I was mad that I lived. I mean, I was not happy about it.
oh, you wake up, you're probably by the time you realize what happened, yeah, you're probably kind of pissed at
Well,
yourself,
yeah, brain
pissed at the
injury.
world. Yeah, you're pissed at everybody.
My kids got taken away. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, things were worse than they were before.
Yes.
And I'd actually made plans to do it again or try again. So it totally baffled me as to
Yeah.
why, when I was presented with this opportunity to die, why did I fight so hard to
Why?
save myself?
Why choose life?
And I determined that that was the real me, that all that chatter in my head was just that. It was chatter. But the essence of who I was wanted to live. And I did choose life after that point. And I started acting like I wanted to live. And I learned everything I could about rehabilitating my brain emotionally, physically, spiritually, every way. I learned about neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity was confirmed in the 1970s at UCSF by Dr. Michael Merzenich.
Okay.
And basically, what it says is your brain changes your brain is malleable. It's
Okay.
like Play-Doh.
Love it.
Of course, when we're children, it's like a sponge. That's how it learns, is neuroplasticity. That's how we learn as children to speak. That's how we learn to walk. We observe what's happening, serve and return, our interaction with our caregivers. Your brain is shaped physically and functionally based on input.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the early years are so important for mental health
Wow.
and emotional development.
Yes.
But what they discovered, they used to think neuroplasticity in your brain only changed in childhood. But what they discovered, and what Dr. Michael Merzenich confirmed, was that your brain changes at every age, from birth till death. And
So
of
wow.
course, it's like some windows close as you age. And your brain isn't quite the sponge it used to be.
Hmm.
And it is still neuroplastic. And anything you do repetitively with consistency gets basically physically wired into your brain. Like addictions are all because of neuroplasticity. Depression is a neuroplastic
Neuroplasticity.
condition. A lot of schizophrenia is a neuroplastic condition. A lot of
Wow.
mental illnesses come about because of neuroplasticity. But the good thing is it works in reverse.
Hmm.
You can also take your brain back to a state of health and wellness via neuroplasticity.
Okay.
It involves learning how to guide and harness neuroplasticity.
Hmm.
And I've got blogs on my website that tell explicitly like conditions and how to harness neuroplasticity as an adult, or how it works. But one of the main ways that we all can do this is through mindfulness.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about like a spiritual, airy fairy, religious mindfulness. I'm talking about mindfulness as a mental health tool.
Yes.
And basically, all mindfulness is tuning into your attention and directing it. And that's how you direct neuroplasticity. Basically, it's like, I like to say it's like the Wizard of Oz. It's like Dorothy. We all have red slippers on, which give us the power to go home or change our lives.
Yes.
We just have to realize that we have it and use it.
Thebestbrainpossible.com.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So thebestbrainpossible.com. There's just a ton of stuff on there.
Right.
Really good resource. And you've built all that?
I did. But when I learned about neuroplasticity and how to optimize my brain and mental health and function to recover. But in doing that, I was like, why didn't anybody ever tell me about this before now? And I
this,
wanted to share that information
mm,
with others because it is so empowering. And
yes.
it's not a miracle, it's not a magic wand, it's consistent effort
Mm,
daily. But it's the power that we all have to change our brains, our mental health, and our lives. And it allowed me to do that to where I am today. I mean, it
yeah.
allowed me to heal from the brain injury, and it has allowed me to improve my mental health. I'm not depressed at all since then. I still have anxious tendencies, which I think if you have anxiety and you have anxious tendencies, that is the default wiring of our brain.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So I don't think we're ever going to be able to get rid of that totally. But what I can do now is I can manage it
Yeah.
and know ways to help myself over
Mm,
anxious situations, or rather than spiraling out, I know ways to help, encourage, and support myself to calm anxiety.
right.
And I mean, like we were talking about, life never stops. It's one challenge after another. And when we have the power to control ourselves, we can't control anything that happens. But if you can control yourself, you you can control the way you experience
Yes.
whatever does happen.
That's
And
so
that
good.
is the answer to, I don't like to say happiness, because I think happiness is fleeting. I think there are moments of happiness, but I think achieving contentment,
I was going to say the word was for me was peace.
yeah, and
It,
peace of mind
I think, yeah, just
is
peace, just
realistic.
be
To
at
be
peace.
happy all the time is unrealistic.
Well, that's
And
manic. Like,
that's an unrealistic goal,
that's a
but
whole different thing if you're happy all the time.
right. But I am able to achieve contentment and peace of mind, and I'm able to calm myself on a consistent basis. And it's really about learning the tools to manage your
Mm,
life and to manage your mental health. I see mental health as lifestyle. It's not
mm,
some pill that we can take. That can be a part of it,
okay.
but you can't expect to just take some pill and everything be okay. It boils down to diet, directing your mind, where you focus your attention, stress management, sleep, exercise, all of that. I mean, I watched a podcast on Alzheimer's yesterday, and they were saying how it's multifaceted, and they're actually being able to reverse Alzheimer's symptoms
I
now with
I've seen some of this.
lifestyle programs. And I think mental health is the same way. I mean, yes, inflammation may be a component. Uh, Stress may be a component. Lack of sleep may be a component.
Hmm.
Exposure to toxins may be a component. For what is comprises your mental health challenges is not going to be the same for me or anybody else. So we all have to get back to living a healthy life, which is a mentally healthy life as well. Can you
Mm,
see my kitty?
so cute.
You froze. There you are.
Kind of, my there we are. My connection a little bit sketchy there for a second. Um, this part about the neuroplasticity is so interesting to me. And I was even reading on this topic. It's not just about the building the new ones, but it's
Right.
also how to how to break down the old ones. And that I think the idea of when you have that thought that's not a healthy thought for you, about how to interrupt that conversation in your head and to change that thought so you don't keep wiring and firing those synapses in the brain. And if you stop that conversation in your head and you're now aware and you can shift your thoughts to something more positive, you can actually break that cycle.
That's what mindfulness is all about. It's about interrupting your default brain patterns.
Hmm.
You have a use it or lose it brain.
Okay.
Uh, Neurons that fire together repeatedly, as in having, like, if you consistently think catastrophic thoughts or think about something that was extremely painful for you in the past, that becomes wired, physically wired, as a default pattern in your brain. And our brains are really efficient. It's going to take the path of least resistance, and
Okay.
it uses the least energy possible.
Hmm.
So it's going to go back to the default patterns. So it does take effort to direct your mind and change your thoughts. But if you do it consistently over time, I've got a blog on my website called The 10 Fundamentals of Neuroplasticity,
Oh,
and lots of information about how to use your mind to change your brain, to change depression, to change anxiety. But if you do this consistently over time, and there's a lot of scientific proof,
yes.
this is not something spiritual that I'm just grabbing out thin air. You
This science, brain science.
actually change your brain.
Yeah.
I just published this book called
Oh,
How to Use Mindfulness as a Mental Health Tool. It's 323 pages, but 17 pages of those are scientific resources. It's based on science. There is so much science to support that mindfulness is a way to recover from depression and to decrease anxiety, which is at epidemic portions in the
yeah.
world these days. I mean, it's just part of our culture. But it doesn't have to be your story. At any moment, any of us can take control of our minds and start changing our default patterns and even our physical brains. And when you do that, you change your default brain waves, you change the physical reactions, the hormones that are released in your body. When you change your thoughts, you change the neurochemicals that are released
Yeah.
in your body. I mean, a lot of health issues come from stress. And
Oh God, so much can come
I mean,
back to stress.
I would say that it's almost involved in every single illness.
Changes your cell
And
structure, right? Cells, it's that
exactly,
powerful.
exactly.
Yeah.
And you can learn how to de-escalate that and
Hmm.
calm your body with your breathing, with mindfulness practices like visualization,
Mm-hmm.
affirmations. I mean, I don't advocate just think positive. That a lot of times does more damage than good because it's kind of disillusional.
Hmm.
But you can direct your thoughts in a way that help you rather than hurt you. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying mindfulness is all about.
I want to talk a little bit about this one aspect of probably it's somewhere in your website. But the idea that our bodies are like super chemical factories, right?
Oh yeah.
And every drug that is in the mental health regime is probably mimicking an actual human drug, if you will, right? Something our body manufactures depending upon the situation, by probably from our brain to some organ, and create a chemical to match our need. So it's funny, we have all these SSIs, heavy duty chemicals, probably a very low effective rate. I don't know what the numbers are, low in 30s or 20s, as far as effectiveness, whatever that measurement is. But, we have our bodies, our brains can produce any one of those chemicals.
And you bring up a good point. Mindfulness and exercise and other things have as good, if not better,
Yes.
success rate than a lot of the medications. And
Gotta believe that.
there are a lot of harmful side effects with these medications.
Oh, yes.
Benzodiazepines are extremely addictive, and they change your brain in ways that aren't good.
It's real. What's the other one I wanted to ask?
I'm not anti-medication. I mean, it can be one part of a solution, but it's only a small part, and it's not a long-term answer.
This is the thing. That's my point. I think you go in to see a therapist and you get that you need to get under control. The drugs are going to be helpful, and there's a lot of success stories. But
Right.
it is not. You don't want to find yourself 30 years later on a cocktail.
Right.
You've got to find that self-healing.
Right.
What about therapy like this? I think one of the things that I've in my learning and meeting people like you, doing some research, the neuroplasticity part, I've often felt talk therapy at some point becomes damaging, because you are reliving that experience over and over and over. And so I can't figure out is it the idea that if I poke this nerve enough, eventually I'll get all the tissue out of there and the nerve will be dead and I won't have any emotion attached to that event. So it's like trying to bleed the emotion out. Or do you think that repeatedly bringing yourself back to that event is just from a neuroplasticity level, it's just rewiring that brain? Or is it trying to unwire? You know what I mean? Because from what I know from the you should be unwiring that, and it feels like talk therapy reinforces it. And I'm still.
It's been proven, Ken, that talk therapy, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, a lot, DBT, there are all kinds of therapies that are scientifically proven to change your brain. And an important part of that is when it's brought up, it's processed differently. I mean, with a therapist, it's processed differently, and you can actually store that memory. Your brain will store it differently and attach different emotions to it.
Okay.
I mean, when it's brought up, matter of fact, I've got a blog on my website, and Dr. Rick Hanson talks about this a lot. But when you recall a memory, a memory is not, every time you recall it, it's remade.
Yes.
So when you store it, if you attach different emotions and reframe it, you're actually changing that memory.
You're changing the physical memory. Okay.
And you can heal the trauma. EMDR, eye movement desensitization.
Yeah.
Whatever, I can't remember. But EMDR, where you watch something go back and forth, they've proven that, and that's extremely successful with traumatic memories and PTSD and all that.
Okay.
But they've proven that when you bring it up, moving the eyes has something to do with the way it's stored and the way it's
and recall
back into your cognitive storage. And it takes out a lot of the emotions or trauma. Yes. So actually, yes and no.
Okay.
Going to talk therapy does rewire your brain, and it can do damage, but hopefully under the guidance of a skilled therapist, they help you restore that memory and realign it in a way that isn't damaging. And matter
Right.
of fact, takes out the damaging emotions for you. And I would say I've experienced that.
Hmm.
I witnessed my brother's death from AIDS, and it was not peaceful. I mean, and it was not pleasant,
Hmm.
and or at the time. And I tortured myself with the visual memory of that for years afterwards.
Okay. Okay.
But I can actually say now that I've reframed it. And my brother and my mother and father were there also. And my brother tells of this peaceful experience. And I'm like, I didn't get that up. But what I realize is, and what we all do,
That's interesting.
is that whatever's happening, we perceive it through our brain, our
Wow.
subconscious brain, our traumas, our mental state. But I can honestly say now that I can look back on that experience and feel the love that was
Hmm.
in the room. I mean, I was horrified and terrified. That was my emotional state. But I can look back now and I do feel the love and support for my brother.
Yeah.
I've got two that died, that we were all in the room at the time extending to him.
Hmm.
But the trauma that I experienced was because of my brain and my mental state. And now that I've healed, I can reframe the memory.
Yeah. Interesting. Here's a question about get a little bit woo woo, and maybe this is in your, maybe you've got some of this on your website. Um, the energy created by thoughts, right? There's people, even the written word is, I've heard people speak about even how, the ink or the way the words are written has got some kind of an energy, and certainly speaking has some energy. The words we choose, right? There's I don't know how many experiments around, the Japanese experiments around, speaking kindly to water, to freezing the water, then rice and plants and
Yeah, and they've actually done experiments
yeah.
that show that people can control machines. They can control other people's blood pressure and other physical measurements with their thoughts.
With the thoughts.
Thoughts are electromagnetic. They're
Yes.
electrical impulses. They're
Yeah, yeah.
real things, and they're real things that can affect other things.
I mean, to me, this is a part of the science as the brain science kind of evolves, right? We better understand the brain. It's becoming quite amazing to think that you can affect physically, you can affect somebody else's blood pressure and everything else. And then you start to ask the question, can you heal yourself or can you heal another person with your energy, with your thoughts, with however your thought is going to escape and land on somebody else, or your directed energy to somebody.
I don't, like I said, I don't believe in just think positive, but I'm a big proponent of your thoughts or energy. And if you're constantly thinking negative thoughts or about a sickness or a wound that you have, what energy, I mean, do you think you're sending yourself and your cells? So I do practice
Hmm.
visualization and affirmations simply because it goes back to I'm guiding my mind and controlling my energy
Hmm.
rather than just letting my subconscious fears and
Oh,
subconscious brain determine what's happening. I'm consciously controlling my life and directing my thoughts and energy.
it's interesting. It's almost like it's like you have a loaded gun. It's like if you're not conscious of your thoughts and you're thinking, you're running
We can do
around.
a lot of damage.
You got an AK-47 and you're just walking around shooting stuff.
Well,
with,
that's what I did the first half of my life. And
yes.
it is not fun and it does not produce good results. I like to say
I've,
learning to
oh,
direct our mind is a superpower.
it's
It
a
really
superpower.
is. If you think about it, it's a superpower.
It's a
To be able
superpower.
to stay calm when everybody else is freaking out or the situation is stressful is a superpower for your brain and your body.
Well, once your brain goes off and it does a chemical dump,
Right.
right? You literally dump. I mean, if you lose control of your thoughts, right, or the emotion, or an emergency situation, and if you panic, you're going to have a chemical dump, and then you're immediately thinking like a reptilian. I mean,
And you're
your
also
capacity is like a lizard.
encouraging more of the same.
I,
It's a
I,
loop. Whatever you do, your brain is going to do more of.
yeah, it's and
And
it's hard
that's
to
the
pull
way
out of
I
that.
used to live.
Yeah, right.
And it
This
is no fun.
cycle. I loved what you said a minute ago. They're like, it's no fun. It's dangerous. I can't remember what you said was, but yeah, I did that already. That's not the way to live. It's cracking me up. You've had, I mean, you look at you've had some pretty gigantic human experiences. I mean, near death, on your own accord, a near death on, the universe kind of seeing if you'd learned your lesson.
Right.
Divorce is a big thing. Losing your kids had to be massive. You've had some pretty heavy duty human experiences. But now here you are, stronger and better than the previous version. It's kind of wild.
If anybody's interested, I have written it all down in a book called Sex, Suicide, and Serotonin.
Wait a minute, is that your book?
It is. It's my memoir.
I was gonna. I
It's about
saw.
it's about how I got to the 40 some years of programming about how I got to the point I thought the only answer was ending my life, and then how I recovered and
Yeah,
rebuilt my brain and my life. And this is really a self-help book in disguise.
yeah.
I've heard I've heard from people this ought to be a Netflix series.
It's like historical fiction.
Right.
Is that a way to say it? Like it's true. It's true. It's really happened. A self-help book by really, like you said, autobiographical. I bet a lot of the readers find a piece of you in themselves would be a common comment.
Well, if we can share our stories and other people
Yeah.
can learn from them. I mean, I'm okay with people thinking, well, at least I didn't do that. I mean, I'm okay being that person. I mean, I recognize the mistakes I made and I learn from them. And that's the best we all can do.
How's it with your sons?
Um, Really good. One is just turned 30 and the other's 27. And but like I said, my ex took them away,
Yeah,
moved
right.
out of state. Um, they were junior high age. And after college, they both came back here to live and they live like an hour away. And it was a blessing in disguise. I shudder to think who they would have been if they'd grown up with only me as a caretaker.
Right.
Because to I see now how mentally unhealthy I was.
Yes.
And you learn from your environment and you learn from your caretakers.
Yes.
And I taught them how to be anxious, how to be depressed, how to think catastrophically, how to react.
Hmm.
And boys need their dad. And their dad, well, he and I didn't work out. He honestly did showed them that he cared about them. He is a great provider, and they benefited from their time with him and his new wife, and they gained a brother, and they're better people because of
Mm.
that. And when they came back, uh, they're both now incredibly emotionally intelligent. And
Oh, they would. Yeah, they must have. They've had a way better training than you had. Way better coaching.
well, I like to think that that's because of their years with me since
Yeah,
I
sure.
tried in my life.
Yeah.
I've tried to impart that what I've learned upon them and tried to help them learn to manage their emotions because I did teach them bad. I wanted to teach them better.
Hmm. I bet you're their hero in a
I
big
wouldn't
way.
say that.
Yeah.
Maybe when they get older. You know how when kids are
Yeah.
in their 20s, it's almost like they start disliking their parents.
Oh yeah, because you figure early 20s, you figure your parents are retards. Like
Like, like they don't know anything.
they're just dumb as rocks.
They're
Old.
they're starting to come back around.
Yeah, you get to 30 and you start realizing maybe I don't really have all this life thing figured out like I thought I did when I was 18.
I'm a yoga fanatic, and I made my oldest son. He actually came back to live with me in between undergrad and grad school,
Oh
and I
man.
made him go to yoga with me, hot yoga. It's yoga in 100 degrees and 40% humidity. And I made him go with me like 2 or 3 times a week the whole year that I lived. And of course, when he got back on his own, he didn't go at all. And now he's starting to go again.
He's finding it. Yeah. You got two books. Another one?
I do. I
Or-
have three. Let's see if I have the other one.
I I saw the serotonin one on your page. I didn't realize that was yours. Okay, this is so much fun.
Okay, I don't know that I have the other one right here, but it's a yellow book called How to Beat Depression and Anxiety by Changing Your Brain. It,
Okay.
it's really a very short. Everybody has commented that it's easy to read because the chapters are like so short and so
Yeah.
brief and step by step. But it's basically a very Cliff Notes version of what I learned as I learned to rehabilitate my brain so that it was healthy and not in a depressive state. And as I learned to manage anxiety. And these are tools that can work for anyone. If they
Absolutely.
work for me, they can work for anyone.
I imagine if you woke up and you couldn't speak and you're pretty articulate now. So tell us the most recent book, the first one you showed us.
No,
Or,
the first one is
yeah, which one did you show us?
the beat. Oh, here it is. This
Oh,
is
there it is.
that I was talking about. It's Beat Depression and Anxiety by Changing Your Brain. And the doctor that we talked about, Dr. Michael Merzenich,
Yeah.
that discovered neuroplasticity at UCSF, endorsed it.
What?
Yeah, you can see that on the back. And then I published my memoir, and that's
Okay.
it's kind of pleasure entertainment reading, and
Yeah.
you'll learn something along the way.
Okay.
And the last one is this month.
This one, yeah, the mindfulness. So how do they find you? Through your website?
Yeah, it's called thebestbrainpossible.com.
Okay.
And all the books are on the website,
We'll
but
show them.
also pretty much most of the information is on the website. You just have to do a lot of searching
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
for different blogs and stuff. But the books put it together nicely.
Yeah.
And I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest.
Amazing, Debbie. I guess funny question would be, if you had a choice, if you knew this would be your life, would you choose it?
I
Would you?
definitely I've got to say that if you like where you are, you can't complain how you got there. So I definitely like where I am.
It's
And
a great it's a great one. I'm going to steal that.
I do think it's much better than where I would have been had I continued on the same course.
On the same
So
course,
yes, I would choose it again, but I would choose gentler ways to learn my lesson.
right? Yes.
But at that time, I learned through pain, and I had to be hit over the head with a lesson before I learned it. But
Well,
I do
it's
not do
amazing.
that anymore.
I love, there's so much, I've been doing this interviewing thing now for 2.5 years, and, I've learned really people are unbreakable. Humans are really actually almost unbreakable. Um, Case in point, you having an opportunity to drown, but, didn't let it happen. And probably was a good reason, there was probably that was like as good a time as any. You were being shown an opportunity, and I'll take life.
There was a
And
good lesson
it's
in that,
amazing.
because
Oof.
when I got back, I was like, why in the world didn't
Why?
you just
I guess you put all your other plans on how to take your life went to the sideline after you realized, okay, I guess I'm not choosing that. It's not my path.
right?
And you've healed your children, and so you can feel like you've stopped a bad cycle. You've ended, whatever led you to that kind of brain at that age, like you said, life experience and everything else, and you've broken that cycle. You got your kids in the right spot at 30.
Well,
Between you and the ex-husband, right? Between the two, it took a team to do it. And any other thoughts you want to leave the audience with?
the main message I want to leave with everyone is that I'm not special.
Hmm.
Every one of us can do this.
Yeah.
Every one of us can take some control of our brains, our mental health, and our life. We're not powerless.
Right.
We have to use the power we have. And you can do that simply with your attention. If you want to get elaborate, you can go to counseling, you can practice mindfulness. Something will work. You just have to find what works for you. But taking control of your brain lets you take control of your life.
Debbie, thanks so much for sharing some great wisdom. And I mean, you've got a powerful personal story.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad to have been here.
Able to share it. I think that's, it's not easy. I think there's sometimes tough conversations going back, and also the humility to share even the ugly parts. Even the ugly parts.
I've had a lot of practice.
Thanks. Yeah. You have had a lot of practice. And, I like the fact you're not afraid to get back up and swing the bat again and try and keep trying.
Well, there's a lot of healing in talking about things publicly. It takes away the shame. If I don't take on any shame, there isn't any for me. I mean, people can think what they want to think. I'm not responsible for that. I'm responsible for
Yeah, I love that. Yes. Thanks again. And thanks everybody for listening and supporting, sharing the Mental Health Today show, what we're trying to do. And again, I think what Debbie just said is, take the shame out of, how you feel and how you think, about yourself, and, hopefully providing some great examples like Debbie of people who have shown, you can take control and you can change your life, change your brain, and you can change your life. Debbie, again, thanks so much. Hang around for 30 seconds. I got a little outro, and then I'll see you on the other side.
Thanks.
Okay, hang on. Here we go. I'll find it somewhere. See you in a minute.
Yeah, loose, baby.
We're about to go and make this vessel with these great professionals in public glass. We're not part of the community, but we're from the outer family of glass blowing. Yeah, we're going to go make a magical giant jar with optic lenses so that if you turn it, it changes all the time. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.